5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
For everything from questions about cucumbers to homes on cul-de-sacs, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb in Real Estate Show with Stan DeFreitas, the dad, and James DeFreitas, the son. For the next hour, call in with your questions about gardening, growing your favorite veggies, and growing your profits in real estate. Call them anytime at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And a good afternoon, good morning, or good night. We are everywhere. I am Stan, of course, the dad, and James, my son, is the head of Dream It Real Estate.
That's correct. Yeah, I mean, we are here, and if you're listening to us on the radio, obviously it's 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Sunday mornings, and if there's not a Gator game, then it is 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Saturday nights. So we've got you covered for the earlier risers, and we've got you covered for the night owls. So either way, we have gardening info for you, and we also talk a little bit about real estate. So we're kind of, I don't think there's any other program out there that kind of does what I call gardening and real estate. And people go, well, geez, that sounds a little bit like, selling hot dogs and doing motorcycle maintenance. And it's not exactly that way. And the reason that I will tell you why it's not like hot dogs and motorcycle maintenance is because you generally don't care about what's going on in your yard until you buy your first property. I know I didn't. I didn't care about my first property or gardening in particular until I bought my first home.
I remember.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden I was going through one of the big box stores who is not sponsoring us, and therefore they will not get mentioned. But I was going through the big box store, and I remember calling you up and going, hey, this green plant with yellow dots, will that work? And you went, no, I don't like that plant. And I went, oh, okay, why? And then we went through the whole list of why it might not be a good choice. I'm making up a fictitious plant that doesn't exist. But ultimately, I do think one of the plants we did talk about was like a variegated ginger was one of the plants that we looked at that we thought was okay. And was kind of, and of course you can talk about that plant for a minute if you want.
Well, they've got some out here, actually, some variegated ginger and the landscaping in front of the Palatial 860 studios in Tampa, where we broadcast from.
Emphasis of the palatial.
But, yes, super palatial. So much so that they're going, oh, la, Greenthumb's made it to the big time. But anyway, I would say you see that they're doing okay out there. Some plants have been injured. You'll notice the Ixoras out there look a little bit under the weather. And why is that? Because we had a cold snap that came through for about 2 days. We were cold, and some of you brought some of your cold down here from either Chicago, Detroit, New York,
Buffalo,
Ohio, or any point in between here and there. And we were cold. Now, we weren't as cold as a lot of other places, but we were down to the freezing point. And I know both my Cuban or French oregano and my basil did not like it.
Don't forget your nanners.
And my nanners got pretty cooked. Not as bad as across the street. Colleen's are more in the open. Her got nannered a little bit more cold damage than mine.
Or if you're from England, the nanners got knackered.
Got knackered. Well, they're not doing too good, but they will probably come back. We've not had the kind of cold that should kill to the ground yet on most things. Now, my basil looks like it's probably history. Rosemary didn't look like it was bothered hardly at all, and yet rosemary, basil, and the oregano are all in the same general family.
Sure. Yeah, well, that makes sense. Yeah. And just so I don't forget, one of the things I do want to mention is that we do have an active listing that is taking place under my new banner of Dream It Real Estate. And so you can go check this out. You can just Google it, since that's what people do. And then usually one of the big real estate chains usually takes up the IDX feed from the local MLSs when they do that to project the information of the home. But anyway, if you're interested in a 55 and up condo, we have one of those available. And you can go to, just Google this in. It's 1900 59th Avenue North. So that's 1900 59th Avenue North, Unit 112. So that's a ground floor unit. And that's in St. Petersburg. I mean, there's actually a skyline shot to show you that it's not too far from the downtown area. And, so it's a great opportunity. It's, it's a nice community, in this particular area. There's a lot of things happening in the St. Petersburg area that you're not too far away from. And it's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, condo. And I think for the right person, you have to be okay. I mean, one of the things I suggest to some people is they're not always okay with communal living. Well, if that's your MO, then I would suggest a townhome and condos are not for you. You need to think of a single family home, something with a little bit of land and a little bit of distance from you and your neighbors. If you're okay with interacting with people, and you're okay with being a little more extroverted, then I think communal living is much better for those type of individuals. Now, some people kind of get forced into a condo or a townhome because it's more within their price range. And I get that. I totally get that. But the reality of it is you really would be better suited in, getting into a condo or townhome if you like other people. And,
sure.
And if you're okay with, putting up with some of the things that happen in communal living, you're going to have, they're going to be pets, and with pets come with responsible owners and non-responsible owners. So you're going to have signs up and doggy bags and hope that people pick up after their pets. Some will, some won't. It's just the nature of it, the way it goes. So, but these are things you'll have to consider when you're looking at communal space, because you are having to get right with the concept of sharing, and then having common ownership areas where it's owned by the community. It may feel like it's yours, but it may not actually be yours in an individual sense. But communally, I'm referring to common area property, and that those areas also have to be maintained and taken care of. So sometimes when you pay a large, homeowners association monthly due, you're wondering, why am I paying for all of this stuff when the guy cuts my grass and he has it done in 4.5 seconds and generally leaves tire marks because he's doing it so quickly on his mower.
Warp 1, Captain.
Right. And, and again, a lot of those guys too, I'm not sure if those guys get enough credit because, not everybody wants to get up every week and go cut grass for a living and then blow stuff around and, and weed whack and stick edged. And now I personally think sometimes in the lawn maintenance business in particular, I think that they tend to do the same old routine week after week after week. I mean, sometimes they're stick edging and I'm going, well, it still looks good from last week. I don't know why we're wasting any effort doing that, other than it's a perpetual pattern in their brain that they've gotten used to. So I don't necessarily think that people need to do that every week. I'd rather see some of those resources used for trimming bushes, which is something that a lot of communities need more of. Mine included. And
this is the time of year you can do it because you may not have to mow every week.
Right. Or you'll get into situations where, you've got an association that thought they were saving money by not having the lawn maintenance company trim the bushes. Just make it an owner responsibility. I mean, that's
then you get owners that can't do it.
Well, and then to your point, what if you have an owner who doesn't do it? And in my community, guess what a lot of owners decided to do when they said, oh, it's their responsibility? You know what they did? They took all of their plants and they tore them all out. They tore all of their plants out of the front and out of the back. And you know what they did? They put brick pavers in.
That must look nice.
Yeah, it looks awful. But what are they saying? They're saying, okay, well, if you don't want to do this, I don't want to maintain it. I'm not going to maintain it. So you forced me to do something like this. I'll put up a couple of potted plants and a park bench and call it good. And that's what they did. And you would think that might be enough for an association to go, gosh, do we really want to encourage that? No, because they don't pay attention to that stuff, because mostly associations are made up of people who have 40-hour-a-week jobs and they're busy. Okay, right. So there's that. They're so busy they don't have time to notice. Now, there's some retirees, like if you're talking about this condo that we're selling in St. Pete, at 1900 59th Avenue North, Unit 112. You know you want to write that down.
How much is it?
Well, and again, I think it's very affordably priced. Again, we're sort of in a market decline. I know a lot of sellers don't want to hear that, and I guess from a salesmanship's point of view, I shouldn't be saying that, but I like to be honest. Okay, and this price on
It's
this
a good trade.
It's a good trade, but this condo is being listed at $145,500, so that's $145,500. So I still think at that price point, a lot of people can afford that. And when you start getting into the $700,000, $800,000, $900,000, now you're talking about people that are in the 1% category, or in the top 5 anyway.
Sure. When there's a lot of people who, let's say they live part of the year up north, they want a place down here during the winter season because your expense to own that 145 down here, you're going to eat up, and even with a regime fee that seems a little high, go price out fuel up north and see what it costs to fill up your tanks to heat your home. So a lot of folks will have a little condo for part of the year here, and this would be ideal because it's going to be mowed, it's edged. I think isn't it the cable and the gas are included?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing too, is that when you look, now one of the things I will suggest to people is that when they go to look at a place like this, they tend to have what I call the freak out moment. They'll sit back and they'll say to themselves, "Holy smokes, why am I paying $497 a month?" Well, now individually, you might be paying that anyway, okay? When you add up everything that this place offers, you probably are paying for it, okay? Because in this place, it covers your gas, it covers your sewer, it covers your cable, your Wi-Fi, your trash removal, insurance, security, maintenance, everything is kind of included in that. And pardon that, we have a little technical glitch apparently.
Just checking something on there.
Yeah, apparently.
Want to make sure our Facebook and YouTube was working.
Okay, well, that's a good thing. But anyways, we'll check that at the break, hopefully. And so nonetheless, when you add up individual costs of what you have to pay, and if it's all in one check, then people tend to get upset. But when it's individualized, people all pay it. And I'm not exactly sure I understand why the big bill scares you less, even though it may be less than the individual amounts you pay for the same services. So really think about that.
Bills the other way. Yep.
Correct. And with that note, we're going to go pay some bills. Don't change that dial. We are here for you.
Stay with us as the plant talk and real estate talk continues here on the Ask Mr. Greenthumb Gardening and Real Estate Show here on AM 860, The Answer.
Want to talk real estate? Call James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127 or go online, aflre.com.
Why choose Stafford Tree Service? Is it because they're experienced, have the latest equipment, and friendly professional personnel? Absolutely. Stafford's positioned themselves as a leading tree trimming company in all of Tampa Bay. With honest professionals and competitive pricing, they'll earn your trust too. In business for over 15 years, Stafford Tree Service is licensed, bonded, and insured to provide you the very best tree trimming experience. Call today, 727-546-8786, 727-546-8786. On the web at staffordtreesvc.com.
Biophilia, our innate attraction to other living things. It's why people love plants. And around Tampa Bay, Plants, that's Plantz, is bringing nature inside, in workspaces and homes by delivering beautiful foliage plants. Our plants increase oxygen and filter out pollutants, reducing stress and improving productivity, and get you in touch with your biophilic side. Go to plantz.us.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Give them a call at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And you can, of course, get to us through Facebook and I think also YouTube. I think we're going out on both. So if you want to send us a question that way, you can. We talked a little bit about cold damage. One of the things I got a question the other day, and actually two questions. One I'm going to ask you later about. Somebody asked me the difference between condos and townhouses, which you could explain. And the other thing was a question kind of for me, and that was, should you trim off the dead-looking leaves that have been injured by the cold? And my answer normally is to wait, because if you start to stimulate a lot of new growth right now, let's say it gets up to near 80, which it has, and then all of a sudden we go back down to below freezing and you stimulated that new growth, it's kind of like a 1-2 punch. And so you might have more problems. So I know you hate to do that, but I'd probably wait for a while. We get a little more towards spring, and then I'd take a knife if it's on, let's say, Schefflera, for example, and it's kind of dead up above. I keep scraping till I get down to where it's nice and dark Kelly green, and then I'd cut to that point. And on some of them, something might be, a 10-foot tall Schefflera or 20-foot tall, it might go down to 2 feet off the ground. Or if we have a real hard freeze, which we've had a freeze and it's gone below freezing, if it goes down there and stays there for any length of time, we could have it go to the ground. And of course, that just means a lot of material that has to be trimmed off. And as you were saying, sometimes in some of the condos, and in condos, almost always the service is within your paying. When you're paying that $495 or whatever you're paying,
Right.
It's part of it. In a townhouse, sometimes you actually own a little bit of the land around there, I believe.
Right, and that's correct, and that's your general question that some people might have is, what is the more of a, and again, I'm not giving out legal advice, I'm just repeating what I've heard, so basically, when you buy a condo, you're buying the interior space. The
four walls inside.
The four walls inside, the ceiling and the floor. That's it. When you buy a townhome, you're buying more of like a hybrid between a condo and a house. So, and again, always check the docs. The docs are controlling. So it doesn't matter what I say. It matters what your documents say. It matters what your declarations say as to how they were set up. So if it says specifically in there that that you have these rights and responsibilities, then that's what it is, and that's controlling. So in a townhome, like in my townhome, you own like a little 4-foot perimeter, and that's to allow for having a piece of land that would be big enough in your backyard in order to have your outdoor condensing unit to allow for that particular device to be out there for cooling and heating purposes, depending upon if it's a heat pump. And so, a lot of people don't realize too, as we got a little bit of cool, you would hear people's outdoor condensing units come on. It's because it's reversing the flow. So right. For those that want to know, that's
if it's a heat pump.
If it's a heat pump. Now, if it's heat strips, it never came on at all.
Because it's a toaster.
Yeah, it's because it's a toaster, and that means that inside your air handler, there is looks just like a hairdryer, essentially, a bunch of coils that turn kind of an orange color, just like a toaster, an old toaster, and that's how it's producing the heat, which is one of the reasons, too, it kind of stinks when you first turn it on for the season, because you're basically baking off all of the dust that's on there. So that gives it a nice, what I call funky smell, but that's life. There is no life without dust.
If you want more about air conditioning and heating, then go to our friends at Easy Breezy.
That's right. If you want to go to our friends over there at Easy Breezy AC, you can give them a call at 727-856-4822. That's 727-856-4822. And please let them know that James and or Stan DeFreitas sent you.
Exactly. And so we talk about that. We also, of course, we love our partners that have helped keep us coming to you each week. And Easy Breezy is one. We have Stafford's Tree Service as another.
Absolutely. And if you have, this is a good time, too, to give Kelly Stafford, a call, because, this is not, people are not panicked right now about having a big tropical storm come through. Although we occasionally, during the winter months, do get into some storms, no-name storms that can be as powerful as some of the things that we get over the summer. So I certainly encourage people to again, you don't have to take a long time doing this, but take 5-10 minutes outside, look around your property, and if you're in a condo. Just because you own the interior space doesn't mean you shouldn't be mindful about the trees around your property, and then forward that information to your board president or vice president or property manager, whomever you have a good rapport with, or maybe all three, and let them know, hey, I'm looking at these oak trees here, and I'm seeing some running sap. I'm seeing some wet pockets. I'm seeing some BB holes. Probably there's something wrong with the tree. And then you could certainly give them our information, which, of course, is Stan DeFreitas, Ask Mr. Greenthumb. And, you can call Stan directly, okay? And how would people get a hold of you if they want to make sure that they get a home consultation?
Well, then give me a call on my cell phone. It's 727-423-4794. That's 727-423-4794. And it is my cell. I carry it with me all the time.
So if I call that number, I actually get you.
You're going to get me. You might, if I'm busy, you're going to get a recording, but it'll come on and then I'll get back to you. And I normally get back to people pretty quickly. I actually heard from our old friend Roger Bansmere today, who I had on a couple weeks ago. And Roger was saying, and he's old school. He says, I answer the phone back. He says, I'm glad to see you pick up your own phone, which I did. And he also said there were many people, he had 3 or 4, 5, 6 people contact him, email, and called him saying, hey, we heard you on the Ask Mr. Greenthumb Gardening and Real Estate show. And he said, so it was kind of fun to have people reach out and touch him from being part of our show. And I think it was one of the days you were off on assignment. And actually, might have been one of the days you were signing up some real estate. Signing up real estate, which is always important.
Absolutely. And I don't think during this break I even mentioned it, so I could certainly talk about that again as well. One of the things that we do, in addition to the plants and talking about plants and gardening and helping people with home consultations with their trees, is, of course, I own and run Dream It Real Estate. And you can go to my website. It's dreamitrealestate.co. I know most people have the .com, but .co is what I have. And so it's dreamitrealestate.co. You can find out all of the information about what we're doing, as well as if you need to list a home or if you want to purchase one, you certainly can do that. And we have a condo that is for sale, and it's a 55 and up community, 1900 59th Avenue North, Unit 112 in St. Petersburg. So if you're interested in a 55 and up place, you can certainly check that out. It's a nice unit.
Nice landscaping, too.
Yeah, it's nice landscaping, a lot of nice people in there, and I think for the right person, it would be perfect.
They've got libraries, they've got pools,
cornhole, shuffleboard, everything.
Everything. So stay with us as the plant talk and real estate talk continues here on AM 860, The Answer.
Interested in having a home consult? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at AskMrGreenthumb.com. Broken air conditioner? Keep your home's AC running smoothly all year long with Easy Breezy AC. With thousands of active commercial and residential customers, Easy Breezy AC is Tampa Bay's most trusted HVAC company. Easy Breezy AC cares about those in need. Donate 2 cans of food and receive $20 off a $79 service call. Go to EasyBreezyAC.com and use promo code GreenThumb for an additional $10 off your service call. Call 727-856-HVAC. Life's hard. Comfort's not. Did you know that Stan DeFreitas Mr. Greenthumb can come to your house and examine your plants, trees, and palms? His knowledge can help you become the envy of your neighborhood with lush, green, healthy trees that don't just live, but thrive. Palms and oak trees are part of what makes Florida a beautiful place to live, but they get diseases and are often cut down. We offer ways to save your trees. Call or text Stan today at 727-423-4794 or go online to AskMrGreenthumb.com. That's AskMrGreenthumb.com. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Connect online at askmrgreenthumb.com. Got questions about gardening, real estate, or both? Give him a call at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we're here to answer your questions, and you can send them to us either directly. You can call. In fact, if you're listening to us now, you probably could still give us a call at the 813-289-1860 locally or outside the area if you're anywhere in the world.
Right, and literally anywhere, at least in the continental United States. Anyway. Yeah.
1-877-969-8600. That's 1-877-969-8600. We'll put you on the air, and I'm sure we can make that happen one way or another. We've got all kind of things happening.
All kind of things happening for sure. And of course, if you're just joining us, of course, I am James DeFreitas, the other half of the dynamic duo here. And one of the things I was talking about just a minute ago is we're talking about a property that I have for sale. And it's a 55 and up condo. So it's not going to work for everybody, but if you're in the market, and one of the things that's kind of interesting about this particular place is, let's say you had just hit 55, and let's say, you have a partner or somebody that's your significant other. As long as they're over 45, it's 45 and up, they can actually live there too, as long as one of you is 55. Now, one of the things that's interesting with these kinds of places that they're having to address is typically, like, these condos usually have like a no pets policy, and this place is no different. But one of the things that is happening is that if it's an emotional support animal, a service animal or an emotional support animal, then good luck. You're going to have to let them. So the reason, why do I mention it? Because, I mention it because if there is a way around it technically, and you want to have that dog or cat that is supporting you emotionally, in my opinion, every dog or cat is an emotional support animal, despite probably what the language says in this stuff that you would be submitting to the condo association. But needless to say, if you're in the market for a 55 and up condo, a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, it's not a bad deal at the $145,500 price tag. And I think people should take a look at it if they are so inclined for a modestly priced 55 and up condo. I mean, there are other 55 and up communities. On Top of the World, of course, is a big one, and it's got massive conglomerate parts to it. Sure. So one of the things, but those are a little more pricey. They can be. I mean, those are closer to the 200,000 price range. So for some people, that might price them out. And for other people that are looking for something lesser, and I don't mean lesser really in quality, I just mean lesser in terms of what the overall upfront cost would be, this might be an option for them. So I strongly recommend, and again, you don't have to be really good at figuring out where stuff is. You can literally just open up Google and type in 1900 59th Avenue North, Unit 112, and it will show you all the information on it. Or you can go to our website at dreamitrealestate.co. That's dreamitrealestate.co, and you can contact me through there if you have more interest in the property, and you will learn more about it that way. I wouldn't probably wait on it too long. I know some people out there are probably again, real estate's kind of in a funny area. Prices are you're seeing more price improvement strategies taking place. You're seeing more open house signs. You're seeing that kind of thing. But, when it's a nice unit, when you see the pictures and that sort of thing, you'll realize that you're buying a very quality unit, okay? Because one of the things that Stan and I do not do is we don't get involved in total junk properties. If it's a total fix and flip kind of thing, that's a different market, different segment, and that's not something that I'm, if we're selling it, it's because it's already been fixed. I'm not interested in selling you the property that needs $200,000 worth of work, because most of the people I talk to do not have the time to invest in something like that.
One thing I liked about the unit is that it's got an elevator. And if you're kind of like I am, I used to be very athletic, and going up and down stairs would have been no problem. More of a problem now for me. So if I help them to go show the property, I'll be using the elevator.
Well, luckily for you, it's on the first floor, so you won't even need to use the elevator.
Well, we did on Jeffries.
Yes, on one of the ones that we sold previously at the same community, we did. But on this particular property, it is a first floor unit, which makes it much more desirable. Most people do not want to be climbing steps or getting in an elevator of any sort. But it's good that you mention it. And I also should say, too, just to clarify your statement, is that the elevator is the community elevator, not an elevator inside the unit. So that's important to point out as well, because otherwise sometimes people will go, well, you told me it came with an elevator. And I'd go, well, yes, community.
Yeah, if it's in your own private unit, you'd probably be paying a whole lot more.
Yeah, you'd be paying $100,000 extra just for that.
Yeah, so it's not that, but it's a very lovely community. I like the idea for folks who are reaching a point where maybe they still like it looking nice, but they don't have the time or the inclination for having a service for edge, mow, and blow.
Absolutely.
And they want to have something done. And if you want to go to the pool, you can. If you want to the library, actually, I was impressed. Now, I liked books, so I was thinking they had a very nice library at that center. And I was impressed with that. I was impressed that they had shuffleboard and other things for people to do. And, actually, even for a younger person, you're within a few years now of being legally allowed to be there.
As someone's partner, I would have to find a slightly, I'd have to find a silver sneaker that was interested in cradle robbing.
Well, that could be arranged.
And if I wasn't already happily married.
Steph might not like it, but you can get into the condo.
Yeah, there's that.
Let's look at the bright.
I do like that you tend to like to look at the bright side of things. That's always a bonus, even if it means that you're upgrading me to the advanced AARP card.
It'll be coming before you know it.
I can't wait, and you'll be reminding me every step of the way and have a walker ready for me. And I want 2 tennis balls. I want those things cut in half because that makes it slide so much better.
As I like to remind you, my new heart is 20 years younger than yours. But
true, and every year it's still 20 years younger.
And it will be. Continue.
And that does irritate me, yeah. So, it's one of those scenarios where, but I am grateful. I mean, one of the things that we do have to remind ourselves, I mean, if you turn on the news, boy, I don't care what side you turn on the news, usually people are irritated. And, so one of the things I would like to point out is that we should always remind ourselves to find something we're grateful for. And I mean, every day we should sit back and say, hey, even with your situation, you had this horrible back surgery from the butcher, but you're in a situation where, and I'm not naming the doctor, but one of the things I would suggest is that it wasn't Christopher Reeves. You're not blowing in a tube, you're not Stephen Hawking, you're not having that situation. So there's something to be grateful for in that scenario. And I'm not saying something I wouldn't say publicly anyway.
Sure.
So, but needless to say, always look for the positive out there because it's there if you look for it.
Well, God bless the donors, too. I want to say for the folks out there who donate organs, when someone passes, if they are usable, think of saving someone's life, liver, kidney, heart, retina, eyes. You can literally change someone's life. So if you have when you're getting to have your license, make sure they put the donor on there. Think about it. Think about how you might want to save someone else's life. And that is just, to me, is the biggest gift you could give anyone out there if you could help someone else live through some tragedy that can happen and does happen every day.
Absolutely. And it will happen just because that's the nature of, having so many people in a small area of town. You're going to have car accidents and you're going to have people that are going to have problems and things like that. And again, I'm not suggesting that people are just entirely, should be, looked at as like an automotive part. But I will say if you have no chance of making it out of the situation, and you can help 8, 9 other lives by being an organ donor, and then it'd be foolish not to do that. And you're just going to bury them, and that's not helping anybody. So, yeah, when you get a chance to renew your driver's license, please check the box that says organ donor. You certainly changed our life. It changed Stan's life for sure, and for the positive. So now we can continue to talk about gardening and sell real estate for many more years to come. And so that brings me back to gardening a little bit. So January, this is, this show will air on mid-January. So I'm just curious, what should I be doing in January for gardening?
Well, just kind of evaluating what's been injured.
Okay.
You can start to get your catalogs out, maybe look at what you want to put in. A lot of folks like to put color out, and maybe, basket of geraniums or something. You might go by some of the nurseries. I would mention some of the nurseries if I were working with any of them.
Right.
But since I'm not, I can't, because it just isn't. It doesn't set well with me. But go look at some of the color. Look at some of the things. When I was in Europe many years ago, be a name dropper, I was amazed that you're in some of the areas like Holland. It is dark and dreary for much of the year.
Right.
And if you see them, they'll have a little black bicycle in Holland, and they'll have flowers strapped to the back of it, taking it to the house because you want something that kind of lifts your spirit a little bit.
Which brings me to a question. Because they don't seem to have the same intensity of sunlight that we have here in Florida, do they grow different things that do better in those areas that we don't do here?
Sure. Well, they have a long, cool season, so they can grow a lot of the bulbs. A lot of bulbs need a cold season.
So tulip mania.
It is tulip mania. They have tulips, as I like to say, it was like, ODing on Godiva chocolate. You just everywhere you'd see tulips, and you'd see tulips on a cab would come by, and the front of it had some tulips strapped to the little thing in the front, which I thought, boy, you wouldn't see that typically in America.
Right.
I thought that was to me, it was a neat thing. It's you will see they grow a lot. They have big greenhouses. I was in one greenhouse that was 12 football fields together. And I think it was in Aalsmeer. And we were at that, and we went to the Keukenhof, which is a big garden also. We were shooting stuff back then for PBS. We did some shows. I think we did like 4 or 5 TV shows from Holland. Mm-hmm. And I had great crew. We had Bob Hoke, who was one of my videographer, and about scared the heck out of me because he got like 2 feet away from where they've got all kind of trains and stuff moving by, and he wanted to get an artsy shot. Mm-hmm. Kind of reminded me, Bob should have been the videographer for, Breaking Bad or, Better Call Saul, because you can see, they'll like do a shot through a glass. Anyway, there was neat shooting stuff, and we had some stuff I thought looked like he was going to get killed, and Bob was getting a shot. I said,
but if you get the shot, even if you're injured, you got the shot.
Scared me to death. He was like, I knew I was 3 feet that I was away from the train.
Right.
And I said, boy, yeah, had me worried. Anyway, if you've got some questions, some comments about gardening, real estate, or the like, give us a call, give us a holler, send us a text. Here on the Ask Mr. Greenthumb show, here on 860, The Answer.
Want to talk real estate? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at AskMrGreenthumb.com.
Why choose Stafford Tree Service? Is it because they're experienced, have the latest equipment, and friendly professional personnel? Absolutely. Stafford's positioned themselves as a leading tree trimming company in all of Tampa Bay. With honest professionals and competitive pricing, they'll earn your trust too. In business for over 15 years, Stafford Tree Service is licensed, bonded, and insured to provide you the very best tree trimming experience. Call today, 727-546-8786, 727-546-8786. On the web at StaffordTreeSVC.com.
Biophilia, our innate attraction to other living things. It's why people love plants. And around Tampa Bay, Plants, that's Plantz, is bringing nature inside in workspaces and homes by delivering beautiful foliage plants. Our plants increase oxygen and filter out pollutants, reducing stress and improving productivity. And get you in touch with your biophilic side. Go to plantz.us.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb in Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Give them a call at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we are talking about plants and trees and stuff as always. If you see sap running, I had one of our fans contacted me last week, and she said she was worried about the Spanish moss on her tree. Mm-hmm. And I said, Spanish moss is a tillandsia. It's in the bromeliad group. And Tillandsia. And there's two tillandsias. You see the ball moss? Mm-hmm. That's a tillandsia. Okay. And you see the Spanish moss, which we see, the Spanish used in mattresses and stuff, are both tillandsias. But she was worried about that. I said, send me a picture. She sent me a picture of her trunk and branches, and she has borers. And I told her, I said, I'm much more worried about
the thing that's
borers.
Eating your tree.
It's eating your tree because that's wood. It's borer food. Mm-hmm. And the reason you're saying more moss is because the tree is declining.
Right.
And because it's declining, there's less foliage. The moss has less to compete with. If it has a full canopy, then the moss goes, gosh, I can't hardly get enough light. I don't need much light, but I can't get really enough to keep going very well.
Yeah, and in that light, I am happy to say that I was, we treated one of the trees out front here at AM 860 here in Tampa. It was a magnolia tree that we treated, and it looks much better. I mean,
it's got some new growth coming, even though it's being used as a pole by
the I think it's I forget which utility. Spectrum, Spectrum Utility is
Spectrum has no respect for our magnolia out there, but other than that,
as
Joe would say, there's that.
There's that, and but it's I guess it's being used as an ad hoc kind of thing. My guess would be is that somebody said, well, I'll come back and I'll handle this, and then
forgot it,
and then Manana complex occurred, and all of a sudden now you have this permanent thing that's out there. I'm sure if the supervisors at Spectrum saw that, they would be embarrassed, because I'm sure that's not protocol by any means. But needless to say, I understand what happened. But anyway, it was a magnolia. It looked like it was in decline.
It was in decline.
We came out and we treated it. We put some chemical injectors in it, and we put some nutrient packs in it. And now the tree has new growth. It looks green, and it's looking much better. And so that's probably the best advertisement we can give is look at the tree we treated, look at the trees we didn't treat, and then you decide.
Well, we've got one out here in oak that you can actually see a hole through the branch.
Right. I saw that.
I was focusing on that today, and I thought, Lord, if that falls, say part of the branch falls, hits somebody's car, and hit somebody, hurt somebody.
Oh, yeah, it could be a multi-million-dollar lawsuit, and I hate to see that happen, especially, if you kind of know that the tree's having some problems. But
especially if it's mentioned on the air that you know.
Well, I don't want to get them in too much trouble, but at the same token, I do hope at some point that they'll let us treat those, because I do think that they're worthy of being treated and worthy of being kept. But, again, I don't know their budget, and I don't know what they have in store for that kind of stuff.
But if it should fall and kill one of your loved ones, you can call me at 727-423-4794.
Better call Saul.
Because we'll be there.
Alias Slippin' Jimmy over here. Just tell me when you're going to have the tree hit with the TNT. Let me know, and I'll come at the right time.
Well, sounds like you had that at your complex the other night. Some people were using TNT in the dumpster.
Well, yeah, and this is another thing, too, is that this is a little off topic from gardening and real estate, but, we tend to do a very eclectic show, is for those that listen. But, again, I looked at the bill that Governor DeSantis had signed in 2020 relating to fireworks. And again, one of the defining characteristics is it says that it will not supersede any of the local municipality rules, whether it be for the city or for your county. If they have rules about fireworks, this will not supersede any of that. And the rule basically from the state, from Tallahassee, says there are 3 days a year that you may set off fireworks. You may set it off on July the 4th. You may set it off on New Year's Eve. And you may set off fireworks on New Year's Day. And outside of that, it's illegal. You can't do it. Okay? So now people do what they do. Okay, and the problem is enforcement. What happens typically? Well, you hear a kaboom, you call the cops. By the time they get there, they're long gone. So whomever set them off, the idea of catching them is pretty rare. As a matter of fact, the article that was referencing the law said that even before, when things were illegal across the board, okay, what they were trying to do is create a law that was more in line with what people were doing.
Sure. It makes sense.
So that you don't have this law on the books and then people go, yeah, I know it's on the books, but good luck. So what they did is said, well, all right, well, these 3 days and then, that's it. And so it makes sense from that perspective. But here's the thing. The fireworks that are going out there today, people are buying professional grade fireworks that are literally like mortars, okay? And in my particular community, people knew, because we live pretty close to an apartment complex, and they were smart enough to know with their professional grade fireworks, better not set them off in the apartment complex because other people will call the cops, even on one of the 3 days. But in Pinellas County, mind you, they're still illegal. So you can go to a fireworks show, but you're not allowed to buy or sell them, even though we still allow the tents where people can go and buy them. So I don't know exactly why we have this law in the books with Pinellas County that says can't do it, but then we still allow the people with firework tents to sell them to scare birds with, and these are air quotes that you can't see, but I'm doing air quotes, scare birds, which was always the way that people got around the firework thing is, well, if you're scaring birds, that's okay, because that's, somehow that's better if you're scaring the death out of wildlife.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably not good for the birds.
Well, yeah. I mean, again,
certainly not good for all the doggies and kitties and stuff shake.
That brings me to my next point is that, these people were letting off fireworks and they couldn't understand why I was coming on pretty strong with them. And the reason was I was taking care of 3 dogs. One is not mine. I have 2 dogs, and my two dogs are terrified of thunderstorms and fireworks. And if you have animals, maybe you can relate.
Most people can.
Right. So I wasn't so much upset that they wanted to have a good time. But what they were doing is they wanted to have a good time at the expense of me and my pets having a bad time. And they made their own little ad hoc fireworks show, 150 yards away from my home. And I didn't get a choice in the idea that you decided to buy what I considered to be illegal, unsafe fireworks for civilians to be setting off. And what happened is my dogs went inside and they peed on the floor because they were so scared at the loud noise boom that this made, which lit up the sky. Okay, so that gives you an idea. We're not talking about sparklers here. This isn't pop rocks or whatever those things are called, little snap pops. Yeah. Okay, we're not talking about that. We're talking about mortar fireworks with real explosions and real, we're talking Hollywood stuff here. Okay?
You said the dumpster was injured, right?
And the dumpster, what they did is they blew the top off the thing, okay, because they thought it would be a lot of fun to throw them into a public dumpster, which is right next to a park. And I guess that probably elevates the sound, too. It makes it even louder because the explosion has to go up, okay? But again, I don't want to belabor the point too long, but I would rather prefer that we go back to sparklers and snakes instead of professional grade fireworks. It's not safe for the people letting them off. It's not great for the pets. And if you need to go see a fireworks show, go to a professional show that's being put off specifically for that purpose.
Right.
There's plenty of them,
One of our football players that played for the Bucks a few years ago lost part of his fingers, couple fingers, I think part of his hand. I think it was JPP. who was really quite good at getting to the other quarterback. We actually could use someone like him again, but he had a firework go off in his hand and had problems. This was a number of years ago.
Does that explain why some of our receivers are having trouble catching the ball?
Yeah, you'd
this
wonder.
year?
You'd wonder. Well, I think finally
I did look to see if Mike Evans. He looks like all the fingers are there again. I think for the first half of the season, or into the latter half of the season, I wasn't sure if he'd had a bad firework accident and had maybe half of his hand missing.
That makes you wonder. Well, I think it was a combination. Some of the balls weren't perfectly thrown either. I mean, maybe Tom probably went through some problems too, even though he seems to have been pretty tough about going through a split and stuff. That's still got to be tough on you.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
And
but
so-
if I were him, I'd probably take up some Brazilian jiu-jitsu on the side.
Hey, low blow.
Yeah. You're right. We got to keep it PG in here. But in terms of gardening and real estate, we'll talk. Is this the fourth break set, Brian? Fourth break? Okay. So, again, we appreciate that people, tune into our show each and every week. And, we're always here talking about interesting eclectic material where we do have an emphasis of gardening and or real estate. And any final thoughts you would like to share with the world?
Kind of get ready for the spring. Maybe mark down a little plan of what you want to put out there. If you're going to put some veggies out, it's a little bit early yet, but you still could put out broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. They'll all do well. They're expensive. They're good for you. I might talk about that next week a little bit too, about foods that are really healthy and foods that are not. And I think that would be important. Might also talk about realtors, who's right, who's wrong, sometime in between. Stay with us every week as we talk about gardening and real estate here on AM 860, The Answer.
Talk real estate? Call James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127 or go online, aflre.com.